welcome back to Sharon Culinart. Today I'm going to go ahead and paint a poinsettia plant. I know that many people out there, including myself, have videos on making poinsettia cards with a face-on leaf foliage. And I'm going to do the entire plant today from the profile, and it'll be a little bit different. So I went ahead and drew it on already. I hope I've drawn it on dark enough so that you all can see it well. I did have another video out there which somebody stole from me, and I've reported it, so I'm just waiting on them to take it down. But if you see any of my videos, especially my older videos out there that have my name on them, but somebody else is posting them, please let me know and give me a link to that video. All you have to do is hit share and then hit copy link and then just send me the link. And that will take care of it, and that way I can report it. You can report it yourself, but it requires some paperwork, and most people don't want to take the time to do that. So if you see something that is my video, please let me know. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and do this in a slower time lapse so that you can follow along, yet not get too bored with it. And I'm going to do some voiceover for you. Here I'm just wetting my gold Finetec watercolor so that it will soften up before I use it. And I'm taking my masking fluid pen and I'm just covering the centers of the poinsettia where the little yellow pods are, whatever those are called, and the stems that'll be showing underneath the leaves on one of the branches of the plant. And now I'm going to wet the pot area down before I put the gold on. Once I put the gold on, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then at the end of the video I'll go over it with a different color gold to give it kind of a wrinkled effect. Here I'm just going over with some sap green on the green leaves, and after I put the sap green down, I'm going to grab some indanthrone blue and put that over the leaves. Rather than using one dark green, I like to do this so that I get a variance in the color that gives it different values on the single leaf. And I'll do that on the next one as well. Now here I've just cut off a piece of I think this is an old AARP advertisement card that I got in the mail. Yep, I'm that old. Anyway, I'm using the sharp edge to place the veins in on the leaves. Now here, if you go into a vein, or you go into the veining late when the paint is almost dry, you're going to get a lighter looking vein. If you go in and put the veins in while the paint is still seeping into the fibers of the paper, it's going to draw more color in and leave a darker vein. Now here, as you can see, the veins on the right hand side are dark. I went in too early, but the veins on that leaf on the left hand side that I'm painting right now are lighter, like they should be, because it was a little bit drier. Today I'm working in my Pentalic watercolor field book, which has a 140-pound 300 GSM cellulose paper in it, and The brushes that I'm using, the one right now that you see me using, is a silver black velvet, which is a Squirrel Rizlan blend, and that is a size 8 brush. The other brushes that I'll be using throughout the painting are my Da Vinci Spotter, which I believe is a size 6. The writing has rubbed off. And then I have my Winsor & Newton Professional Sable pointed round in 5. And those are the 3 brushes that I use throughout the entire painting. Some interesting facts that I found out about poinsettias are that they're native to Central America, especially in an area of southern Mexico. And my Spanish is kind of poor. It's been many years, but known as Taxco del Alarcon, I think is how you say it. They flower during the winter there. The ancient Aztecs called them something else that I couldn't pronounce, but they had many uses for them, including using the flowers. Well, they're not actually flowers, but the red leaves, known as bracts, to make a purple dye for clothes and cosmetics. And then they used the milky white sap and used it as medicine to treat fevers. I wonder how many of those people died, though, because that white sap contains what we know as latex, and it is not safe for human consumption or even to be on your hands. If you get it on your hands, you should wash them right away because it can get into your pores. The poinsettia is widely known because of a man by the name of Joel Roberts Poinsett. That's why we call them the poinsettia, or poinsettia, as some pronounce it. He was the first ambassador from the U.S. to Mexico in 1825. Poinsett had some greenhouses on his plantations in South Carolina, and while visiting the Taco area in 1828, he became very interested in the poinsettias. He immediately sent some of the plants back to South Carolina, where he began growing the plants and sending them to friends and botanical gardens around the country. One of the friends he sent plants to was a guy named John Bartram of Philadelphia. At the first Philadelphia flower show, Robert Boyce, a plantsman from Pennsylvania, saw the flower, and he was probably the first person to have sold the poinsettias under their botanical or Latin name, which was the Euphorbia pulcherrima, which means the most beautiful euphorbia. They were first sold as cut flowers, and it was in the early 1900s that they were sold as whole plants for landscaping and in pot plants. The Eck family from South Carolina were one, if not the first, to sell them as whole plants, and they're still the main producer of the plants in the USA. It's thought that they became known as the poinsettia in the mid-1830s, when people found out who had first brought them to America from Mexico. And then there's an interesting legend about the plant, about how poinsettias and Christmas come together, and it goes like this. There once was a poor Mexican girl called Pepita who had no present to give the baby Jesus at the time of Christmas Eve services. As Pepita walked to the chapel, sadly, her cousin Pedro tried to cheer her up. Pepita, he said, I'm sure that even the smallest gift given by someone who loves him will make Jesus happy. Pepita didn't know what she could give, so she packed a small handful of weeds from the roadside and made them into a small bouquet. She felt embarrassed because she could only give this small present to Jesus. As she walked through the chapel to the altar, she remembered what Pedro had said. She began to feel better, knelt down, and put the bouquet at the bottom of the nativity scene. Suddenly, the bouquet of weeds burst into bright red flowers, and everyone who saw them were sure that they had seen a miracle. From that day on, the bright red flowers were known as the Flores de Noche Buena, or flowers of the holy night. The shape of the poinsettia flower and leaves are sometimes thought as a symbol of the Star of Bethlehem, which led the wise men to Jesus. The red-colored leaves symbolize the blood of Christ. White leaves represent his purity. And also, one other tidbit is that the poinsettia is also the national emblem of Madagascar. So I just thought those were interesting facts that you might want to know while I'm sitting here painting and you're just watching this. Another little trick, that if you're using a sharp edge card, the edge of a paintbrush, palette knife, whatever, if you're using that to put your veins in and you find that the veins that you want darker are not dark enough, once you've done that, you can go back over them with paint to make them a little bit darker, and then that paint will run into those valleys and it will stick there. Now you see, I did that, and then I went over with my brush and I lifted some of the paint off in the higher areas of the leaves, which gives it more of a reflective look. And then I will be going in with some Moon Glow, or you can use a darker version of the red or make a purple yourself, and go around the edges where the leaves will overlap the one below it, and you can put a little shadow edge in, and that will give it a little more of a three-dimensional look. Well, now here's where I proceed to feel like I've ruined my painting by putting this on. First of all, my pot isn't perfectly straight on the table, but it could be copanoline because the paper is wadded up underneath and the foil or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, this table looked like it was bad. It looked like crap. So I kind of ruined it. And then I decided to sprinkle gold over everything, and that ruined it even more. So I think it goes downhill from here. Sometimes when something's looking good, you just need to stop right there and don't go any further. Happens to the best of us. But we learn by our mistakes, and painting is good whether it comes out good, bad, or indifferent. So just remember, everyone, to be courageous, paint with wild abandon, and most of all, be kind to each other. Until next time, bye-bye.